to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. We are live streamed, but we also have the public here at the high school. We appreciate the use of this space very much. Before we get started, we will stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any counselors who feel that they have a conflict of interest with the votes they'll take tonight? Before we get started, too, I just want to ask everyone to be a little patient on my timing. When I'm looking to see if someone has to speak, I've got to look this way, that way, and up there. So I'm going to do my best to keep it moving. And also, when it comes time for public commentary, we'll give it a minute because there's a little bit of a lag in the public room. So we want to make sure that they have time to get over here if there's somebody that wants to speak on any of the topics tonight. First up, approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I will take roll call.
Council Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councilor Smith?
Yes.
Councilor Mayhew?
Yes.
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
I'm going to take my mask off to say yes, and I want to, in addition, scold everyone at the meeting for not wearing masks.
So moved.
Councilor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, unfinished business. We have ordinance 143, 2020.
I'm going to make a motion to take all of the items on the agenda by title only.
And a second on that.
Okay, could I have a roll call?
Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councilor Smith?
Yes.
Councilor Mayhew?
Yeah.
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
I did not understand what the council chairman said, so I have no idea what we're voting on.
It's a motion to take all of the items on the agenda by title only to speed things up.
Thank you, I can approve of that.
Councilor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Shall I go into item 143-2020?
Please do.
An ordinance providing for amendment to the zoning ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And open for discussion. Councilor Foss?
Actually, I retract that.
This is the general edition.
Yep.
Anybody on the screen?
Nick, do you want to just explain what this is?
Oh, sure. This is just an amendment to the zoning ordinance that adds the solar farm district to the zoning ordinance so that it is there, and that would be under Article 5, the zoning ordinance. See, is there any comments from the public on this particular piece?
Kevin, do you want to speak on this?
Well, this is just for the addition of solar farm zone to the zoning ordinance. I think we want to wait, he probably wants to wait till his project.
Or unless he
Yes.
wants to speak to the setbacks or anything.
Okay.
As long as it's clear that if I'm speaking to the amendment to the zoning ordinance, we do get to speak and present our project under the amendment zoning county road. So we either present now, because if this gets a negative vote, we won't get to speak later. Is that correct?
Yeah, I assume this is going to pass, but if you would like to speak on your project now.
Well, I don't want to miss my opportunity to speak on
This passed
project.
6-1.
So
last
my
week.
question to the chair is, do I speak now, or can I speak under the zoning for the county road specifically?
You'll speak under zoning for County Road specifically.
Thank you.
Yep. Patty, could I get a roll call on this one?
Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
Okay, I'm not clear. What are we taking a vote on? Because I couldn't hear anything.
This
This
is
is-
just to create the the solar zone.
This is.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, the amendment to the zoning ordinance to add it for any use.
Yes.
Okay, so she's a yes, sorry. Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
No.
Soft spoken tonight.
Counselor Frankie?
Excuse me, I'm still having trouble hearing what's occurring.
Can't hear.
What are we voting on?
This is the amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow for a solar farm district.
The first, just,
Okay, I vote yes for that.
Counselor Thomas?
yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
Next item on the agenda is ordinance 144, 2020.
An ordinance providing for amendment to zoning.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And this is, I'll just read the summary. Roland Rosignol and NextGrid request the city council rezone Mr. Rosignol's land to allow for the construction of a solar farm, and this is on the Webb Road, it looks like.
Hi, you've seen me before. Last couple weeks ago, Gil Paquette. I work for VHB. I'm out of South Portland, Maine, and I'm representing NextGrid for this project. I think probably the major point that I want to make, especially given some of the discussion that occurred at the last meeting, was in terms of visibility for this project. So this project is located across where the transfer station is. It's located across where the landfill is located. There's also a buffer of trees here, where the field is located. This buffer of trees.
Pardon me, sir.
Whoop.
What's the issue?
Somebody's audio from Zoom is coming across really, really loud.
Can we just, guys, if you're not speaking, have your Zoom muted?
There. Nope.
Nope.
You can mute all the participants, Chad, and then that should take care of it.
Sounds like someone's mowing the lawn.
There it is. Sounds like a drone.
There it is.
It's Flavia.
Okay.
All set?
All set,
Great,
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Like I was saying, landfill, transfer station, buffer of trees, and central main power right-of-way, and another buffer of trees around the homeowner's property here as well. So I think that is probably the most important point I'd like to make tonight, given the discussion that occurred, given that it is rural residential, but the project will not be visible to the general public. And if anyone's driving down Webb Road, there's just that wall of trees that'll be there. And as you know, people driving 30, 40 aren't going to really have a visual impact, even if they could see it between the trees. That's really the biggest point I want to make, because that was a big discussion point last time, and I'm happy to take questions, but otherwise, the project itself is somewhat self-explanatory.
Any questions from the council or comments? Mike Roy?
One question I have is, do you have any idea about whether what is installed there will be taxable by the city?
We talked about that last time, and I know that the state is working on a program such that either the facility will be taxed by the city, or the state has reimbursed the city. So I know there's a program like that that's being worked on. I'm assuming it would be, but
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in
And
tax law.
the size of the project, megawatt size?
Just under 5 megawatts.
And do you know if it has a place in the lineup to get into the substation?
Yeah, it does.
It does?
Mhm.
Okay. And the power will be going to, is there already a purchaser?
I'm not sure if there are purchasers. There will be purchasers. And
Okay.
that'll be at a discount. So it could be Waterville, could be residents, so forth.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm looking around. Any other questions from the council on this project? Seeing there's none, are there any members of the public that are here, we'll give you a sec, that would want to comment on this particular project? Seeing as none, I think we're ready for a roll call.
If I could just
Oh, absolutely.
make one point
Of
before the
course.
vote.
Yep.
Last time we were here, there were no members from the public. Tonight, there's no members from the public voicing opposition to this project. So I think that's noteworthy in terms of what you're thinking in terms of either approval or denial of this project.
Of course. All right,
All set?
all set?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel Olivera, Counsel Olivera, you'll need to unmute.
Sorry, yes.
Counselor Smith?
Meg?
Unmute again, everyone's been muted. Counselor Smith?
Meg?
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
No.
Counselor Foss?
No.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes?
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 3 opposed.
Flavia, can you mute yourself again?
Wait, how many opposed?
How many opposed?
2.
5 to 2, I'm sorry, I can't add.
Thank you.
5 to 2.
All right, so it passes. Great,
Passes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Flavia, can you mute yourself? We're getting feedback from your audio. Can she not hear me? Like, what's going on?
Flavia, could you put yourself on mute?
Who are they talking to?
You.
You. We're getting feedback from your audio, so can you keep yourself muted when you're not talking?
No. She's not hearing you. Does she have an AC?
Flavia, we need you to mute your audio when you're not talking. Because,
The problem is I can't hear you guys over there.
yeah, we're gonna see if we can maybe make another adjustment here.
Yeah, the audio is not coming in so good. So what was the question?
We're getting feedback from your audio, so you need to keep yourself muted when you're not talking.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Flavia, can you hear us any better now? Is the audio better? Is anybody hearing the audio any better?
I can hear it down the hall.
Yeah, that's the microphone's not the...
Can you guys hear us on, anyone who's on Zoom?
My audio's better, a little bit better when I mute myself. I think that's what we need to do when we're on the home folks here on the Zooming. Need to mute when we're not speaking.
I can definitely hear you better now than before.
Okay. Thank you, Chad.
All right. Next up is Ordinance 145, 2020.
An ordinance providing for amendment to zoning.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And this is, just as a summary, Kevin Violet of Holmes Farms Associates requested City Council rezone his property to allow for the construction of a solar farm, and this is on the county road. Before we get started with any questions from the council, I'd like to invite Mr. Violet to come in and give a presentation.
Thank you for seeing us tonight. Appreciate the fact that we can present our project and see people face to face. Thank you very much. On or about 25 years ago, we took on a project at Holmes Farm. Part of our portfolio, first of all, I run a 5-generational general contracting company called the Ellen Violet Company. I believe I worked in this building in the 70s when Ellen Violet built this wing of buildings here. Our portfolio includes working on local distressed properties, and some of the best rewards that we've ever had is working with people like the Holmes Farm, and you'll meet tonight the 2nd and 3rd generation living on Holmes Farm. And our object going into these projects is to raise revenue locally, sell stock in an S-corp, and partner with the landowner, so that landowner shares in the profitability of the development corporation. And we've been very successful in doing those partnerships. And by allowing us to partnership with these farms and these families, we keep them out of foreclosure from the local banks. The banks work with us because they don't want to take this farm away from this family, and the banks actually promote us to work these programs. And successfully, Holmes Farm has been one of our projects here in Waterville. 25 years ago, I made a promise to the stockholders that we would tastefully develop this project into good, healthy residential subdivisions with larger homes for good tax base. And the project is phased. It will probably outlive me. The project we're proposing here tonight is a 20-acre parcel on the last 40 or 50 acres that we own on the county road. And we did get permits for another 10-lot subdivision that was approved through the planning board. And it's on the high knoll, 100 feet above Messalonsky Stream, with a panoramic view of Streamview Drive, Upper Main Street, Waterville, the Rex area across the river. And we take great pride in the fact that when we came to this project, not only did we partner with the landowners so that they can share in the project, but we also have repaired and cleaned and put back this farm that when we came here in 1995 was in disarray. We took pesticides out of the sheds, we dug up underground gas tanks, we dug up underground unlicensed diesel tanks that were installed by the farmers years and years ago. And by taking down the buildings and cleaning up this farm, we were able to negotiate a deal with a organic dairy farmer in Sydney to take over this farm, mow the grass, and feed their cows. They do not pay us a dime to do that, but to see these fields mowed and open and cleared like you see them today, I think that was a good partnership for the Bragg Farm in Sydney, for their organic dairy farm, this was dairy farm for 2 generations prior to me. In the cleanups, we also worked with DEP to get away from the stream. You put wooded buffer zones and vegetated buffer zones. We also took some of the waterfront lots and used them as mitigation lots in a trade with local developers when Walmart came in, for example, to turn these lots into mitigation lots with no development or construction or even mowing within 100 feet of the stream. So we're real pleased that we were able to do that project. And tonight, you're going to hear from Nick from Derigo Solar first. And again, thank you for listening to the facts and figures that Nick has to say. But you're also going to hear tonight from 2 of the grandson and the great-grandson of Stanley Holmes. They will be speaking to this issue, along with Alan Sweat, the abutter, and along with Mark Champagne, another abutter. So all of the abutters will speak to you here tonight about this issue. And that being said, I'd like to introduce Nick from Derigo Solar. He will go through his presentation of the project.
Thanks, Cal. Is it all right if I use this chair?
Yeah, of course.
Well, thanks everyone for having me here tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to present. We really appreciate the passage of the solar ordinance earlier tonight. We see it as a great opportunity for the city, and the state of Maine. So I'm a co-founder of Derigo Solar. I started it 5 years ago with a partner. We're both Mainers. We live down in southern Maine. I'm a Scarborough resident. My partner's a South Portland resident. When we got started, we bid into an auction run by the Maine Public Utilities Commission and were awarded a contract for 75 megawatts of solar. That about tripled the capacity for the state of Maine back in 2015. And we were awarded that contract because we are able to sell our power at an incredibly reduced rate because the technology, solar technology, has plummeted in cost. So we got a contract for selling our power for 3.4 cents per kilowatt hour. At the time, that was about 2/3 lower than current rates. So today we pay, if you look at your CMP bill, you pay about 8 cents or about 7.9 cents, and we'll be selling power at 3.4 cents. So saving Mainers about $25 million in total through the life of the project. Last year in 2019, the legislature created 2 new programs, net energy billing programs, which created a community platform which would enable homeowners and businesses to contract directly with solar projects. So whereas what we call phase 1 are kind of utility scale projects are selling directly to CMP and Versant, which is formerly known as Emera, the new projects can sell directly to homes and directly to businesses. We're operating in a little more than 30 municipalities throughout the state of Maine, in a lot of rural residential zone areas. The great thing about solar is that it's passive. I'll kind of get into the nature of the development a little bit later. But I think as you saw in the presentation before and the information that we provided, just kind of the nature of the development here with solar. These aren't wind farms. They're not, 80 feet tall. They're low to the ground. There's no moving parts. There's no sound. There's no noise. There's no noise emitted. And there's no emissions. They're incredibly passive systems. So just getting back to the new program, the community solar program. So as I mentioned, we have about 30 projects throughout the state. 4 of those projects are currently contracted with the Waterville School Department. So we're selling about 1,500 megawatt hours to Waterville Public Schools. That, under current market conditions, is going to save your schools about $60,000 per year. That's something that this project would also be able to do. So Manager Roy, you had asked the question about where the power can be sold to the last presenter. This project is uncontracted at the moment, so it's totally open to where the power could be sold. It could be sold to the abutting landowners, it can be sold to local businesses, and the municipality would have the opportunity to do it as the municipality has done with 4 of our other projects in different municipalities. So getting to this project specifically, I wanted to just show, and I think you've all seen this, the parcel of land that we're talking about. So this is Mr. Violet's subdivision. There's existing homes over here. There's a plan for additional homes, lots that have been approved for future sale. And then you have the Holmes family here. You have the Sweats here, and then Mr. Champagne over in this corner here. The remaining land portion is about 43 acres. We'll be using a little less than 20 acres, about 18 acres in total for the system. So this is the original design that we had. And, this had the setbacks per the original ordinance, which was 250 feet from the nearest residence, and 30 feet from the boundary lines. We've since, so I'll just kind of put these, I'll stack them, and hopefully everyone can see these. But after, obviously 2 weeks ago, the council meeting there and hearing, the concerns of Mr. Sweat and his wife, we went back, redesigned the system. Well, before redesigning the system, I met with Mr. Sweat on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, a week ago. We talked about his concerns with the buffers and the setbacks, and Mr. Holmes was there as well. And so what we did was we took this design and went back and had our engineers clean up this western edge, which Mr. Sweat and Mr. Holmes had requested, and basically remove this bit of panels outside of it. So it's further set back. We've increased the setbacks by over 50 feet from the boundary line, which also pushes it further away from the residents as well. And then what you can see here, Waterville spent a lot of time developing its ordinance. And you guys have a great, a strict solar ordinance. Candidly, it's one of the strictest in the state of Maine, but, it makes a lot of sense. And we're happy to abide by it. So as part of the Waterville ordinance, you're required to have basically a dual screening system. And that's the inside fence line here, which has to have slats so you can't see it. So the fence alone would make the system completely invisible. You would not be able to see it. Again, solar, what we deploy is fixed tilt solar. These aren't high up, they don't move around, these are low to the ground. The highest point is about 8 feet. The fence line is taller than that. Outside of the fence, you've got the vegetative buffer where you stagger different trees. Mr. Sweat was, kind enough to talk to a local arborist, followed up with me with, knowing the clay soil here and what type of trees would thrive here. And so we think, this is still preliminary. Obviously, we need to get to that stage. But autumn oak, spruce, and pine are good trees for this vegetative buffer. So as the previous project said, I don't think the aerial does a great job. It looks big, but when you're down along the side of it, there's no visual impact whatsoever. The solar farm is completely invisible to the public. It's invisible to every abutter as a result of the fence, and then as a result of the vegetative buffer. So this thing will sit there passively collecting electricity, tapping an existing distribution line right here, not requiring any new transmission corridors. So no new transmission lines will be required for this project. We're going to tap into the circuit right along here on County Road. And then less than a mile down this road, I'm sure you all are aware, the County Road substation has a massive expansion. So literally just across the street from this location is about a 20, 30 acre substation, which has recently been expanded by CMP, and which we've applied to interconnect and distribute the power through. So with that, that's basically the summary of the project. Thank you for your time. I'm, happy to answer any questions if you have them.
The access road that goes down the middle of your panels,
Yes.
does it sit on top of a little knoll? That the middle of that solar panel?
Right here.
2 years ago.
No, not that access road, the one that goes down the middle of the panels. Yep, does that sit on top of a little knoll?
You probably know the land a little bit better. I think it dips in. We actually have the.
If you look at the pictures that I took that you have, that shows the truck in the background.
We need you on the microphone, sorry.
There is a knoll in the middle of that field.
Yep.
And if you look at the pictures that were distributed to you, you'll see the 8-foot strappings with the orange ribbons with a truck in the background.
Yep.
We purposely put that truck on the highest knoll 300 yards back in the field to show that from the neighbor's back lawn, the truck is underneath the orange ribbons.
No, and I understand, and I don't mean to cut you off, I understand the reasoning behind those pictures. What I'm asking is the road that's in the middle of those soil panels on top of that small roll, the height of the roll of the land that's sitting there?
I would say that road possibly is on that back knoll,
Just
300
about.
yards.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's all I need.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to clarify. I mean, this, look, the road systems that we put in place are basically a dirt road. So it's effectively a farm road. We're not graveling, we're not doing any ground, we don't do any leveling. So solar, what makes it so inexpensive is that you're basically going with the natural curvature of the earth. And the other great thing about this site is that there's no tree clearing. And so you're really preserving, the character of this area. Solar really enhances the biodiversity underneath the panels. It creates microclimates. It's an excellent environment for co-locating agricultural activities. I've mentioned bee production. Most of our facilities have that. And then sheep grazing is another one. Obviously, we'd want to talk with the abutters if, sheep were going to be introduced, but it's another great kind of activity that can go on with these, so.
Can you speak to, Mike had asked the previous developer about what's taxable I mean, as I read this, I'm on the site now that sort of explains this. As I read it, it says only projects that provide bill credits. So I'm assuming if you put solar panels on your house or on top of your business to offset your electric bill, those types of things may be tax exempt, but that the state reimburses for that.
Yeah, so this is a messy situation with the state. So basically, they do a lot of good things in Augusta. Sometimes they overlook some things. This is an aspect that got overlooked. And so basically, the intent of the legislation was to do just that, to exempt solar that's put on rooftops and also small-scale solar, which, depending on who you ask, sub 5 megawatts, this is a sub 5 megawatt project, exactly the same size as the one on Webb Road. These are much smaller scale projects. We have a 20 megawatt project up in Milo, and we have 10 megawatts in Auburn, 14 in Hancock. So it's relatively small. In that legislation, Maine Revenue Service interpreted all projects that sell into the net energy billing program to be, and this is not a great, I don't like using this word, exempt. That doesn't mean it's not taxable.
We don't like you using it either.
Yeah. So the city, importantly, the city will receive a substantial increase in tax revenue from what's currently going on here. So the city will receive tax revenue. It's fully taxable. And so what happens right now, and I talked with our consultants up in Augusta, just confirmed this morning, is that Maine Revenue Service has said to municipalities, assess it however you want. Okay, so go to your tax assessor, you can do the cost methodology, you can do the income methodology, you decide. So the city of Waterville tax assessor has the ability to decide how this is going to be assessed. Depending on if it's the cost or the income approach, it's going to have an assessed value of somewhere between $2.5 and $4 million. That's going to equate, if you use Waterville's mill rate of, I have 25.76, I think that's accurate.
Yep.
So if you use that current mill rate, you're talking about a fully a tax revenue of somewhere between, on the low end, if it's 2.5 million, if that's the assessed value, you're talking about 63,000 in tax revenue for the city of Waterville. If they do the cost approach and they come up with a valuation of 4 million, you're looking at $103,000 in taxable revenue to the city. These don't use any municipal services. So we're not sending kids to your schools. We don't need water. We don't need, obviously, electricity. We don't need any utilities. So we are in completely net positive to the accounts of the city of Waterville. So getting back to the tax question, though. So your assessor has the ability to tax it, and assess that value. Then, per the legislation, the city will get 50% of that assessed value paid to it. So the project doesn't have to pay, the project is basically has to pay 50% of the assessed value. Still substantial. So if you take the 50% of the numbers I just shared with you, you're talking about somewhere between $31,000 and $63,000 in new tax revenue. So that's the current law. And it is what it is. The project on Webb Road is going to be treated that same way, no differently than this. Until the legislature, it doesn't seem like the legislature is going to take it up given, the pandemic and the economic situation they're in. This has really kind of dropped off.
Does the state reimburse us for the lost tax revenue?
The state is paying you the 50%.
So
that's where the 50% is coming.
So your project is exempt. You don't actually pay taxes. The state would pay us 50% of whatever your tax bill
Correct.
would have been.
Correct.
Wait, so you just make all the profits, but you don't pay the taxes? What's up with that?
Well, there's still income tax.
Okay.
And sales tax. So yeah, there's plenty of tax that the state gets, and it's a weird situation. I mean, it's really ironic because if you think about it, the state of Maine is going to be paying 50% of the tax bill, but it's saying we don't care how you can tax it. So it's
So why-
They're
incentivizing.
taking the taxes that these people already paid out of their paychecks, and then they're giving it back to us as tax revenue.
Right.
Well, right. I mean, we place the value on it. So
And
why
then-
would we put a lower value?
And then that's
Right.
subject to the legislature.
Guess we just recoup as much as we can. The state's
Right, it really incentivizes municipalities right now to maximize the assessed value. Now, from what we hear, obviously, there's a lot that happens in Augusta that I'm not a party to. It doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon. There's talk about implementing an excise tax in lieu of property taxes for solar facilities. So it's basically an across-the-board fixed rate for solar. That's going to be, what they're talking about is probably in about the $2,000 per megawatt range. So you're looking at, tax revenue of about $10,000 for a project this size versus today, receiving between $30,000 and $60,000.
Any other questions currently? I see Councilor Frankie with his hand up.
Got on mute.
Unmute. Okay, so let me just see if I understand, if I can make it a little simple. This property is going to be go from a low tax property to a higher tax property with the development. And in addition, the ratepayers purchasing electricity in Maine will get cheaper electricity.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anybody else at this time?
And I don't have a question for him, I have a comment of my own.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
So, in front of you and counselors that are at home, I sent these to you approximately 3:15. You've always heard me say that nobody bought a piece of property in rural residential to step out on their deck and drink coffee while looking at a solar farm. By the map and what we've just discussed with that access road runs across the top of that grass knoll, okay? And that red, on the first picture, the red arrow is the top of the 8-foot stake that's sitting there, okay? So from the deck, which is where this picture was taken at eye level, we can clearly see the grassy knoll. We're gonna put 8 more feet above that of solar panel, okay? On the second picture, which is the bedroom of Mr. Sweat's house, that is approximately 1 foot more higher than the deck that I took the previous picture, and about 30 feet towards the road. Okay, there is in back of that pine that's just about dead center of the picture. There is a stake back there. I just couldn't get it inside the picture enough to be able to point it out. Okay, but that solar farm is going to be visible. I'm asking you all to vote no on this, and this is, again, the clear reason I've always said nobody bought a piece of property in rural residential to step out on their deck and have a cup of coffee and look at a solar farm.
Councilor Smith?
Okay, I was under the impression though that that Mr. Sweat sent an email and he was on board with the solar project.
He's here, so we can.
He's here, and I'll let him speak to that. My understanding was he was told that if this didn't go through, they were going to put a trailer park there, and there was a lot of undue stress on him and his wife, and he felt like it was overwhelming to him. I don't think he ever came out and said, I think this is a great project, but I'll let him speak to that when he comes up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, we will first first I'm going to guess, since there's so many people here, I will ask the proponents to come forward first. So I guess that might be the farm folks.
Excuse me,
Yes,
if I may.
of course you may.
Some of the points that weren't made in the presentation is Derigo Solar has a $7 million investment on the county road. As you have heard, the taxes annually will be $68,000 to $103,000. That is approximately 70 times more than the tax bill that I'm currently paying. The other thing that Derigo Solar, this is somewhat of a land trust program. We've agreed for 40 to 60 years to let this land sit there undeveloped. We've agreed that when he fences this in, And if you've taken shots that show that you can see over an 8-foot fence, I don't believe you can produce a picture that can show a 15-foot or a 25-foot tree in front of the fence. There's never been mentioned. There is a wooded buffer zone, 30 feet deep. The trees are 6 to 20 feet tall, staggered, whatever species the landowners and abutters want. If you think you can see the solar farm over an 8-foot fence, I don't think you can see it over the wooded buffer zone, okay? The other point that you should consider, approximately $5 million will be paid to Waterville in taxes over a 60-year term. And my point about the land trust, in land trust, we take it off the tax rolls and it's there forever, okay? In the solar program, it's like a land trust. We agree, we entrust them with this 20 acres. They fence it in, they wooded buffer zone this. In 60 years from now, my great-grandchildren will stand in front of a council that 60 years from now and decide what's going to happen in this RR zone at that point. This land is undeveloped, untouched, and it's ready to be developed, and who knows what 60 years from now this piece of property would be used for. It could be recreational for Waterville, it could be anything. I don't know everything, but I do know when I cleaned up that farm, it was the right thing to do. I also do know that putting a solar farm in there and entrusting this for 60 years to let someone smarter than I am to do something on this property 60 years from now is probably the right thing to do. I'd like to introduce Nate Holmes, second generation on the Holmes farm.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, welcome.
I'm Nate Holmes. My grandfather was Stanley Holmes, my father Scott Holmes. I was milking cows the last day when the farm went down the drain. We borrowed too much money, and my dad was a hard worker, and he just didn't handle his money correctly. But I can attest to Kevin. I know we were very close to the last days when Ellen Violet and their associates came in and they paid off our debt. And because of that, my grandfather lived in his home the rest of his life. When he died, my father moved into the big yellow farmhouse on County Road. I bought the old house, so I guess I'm a Waterville taxpayer. My son Jordan Holmes now lives there, and he is buying the land from my mother where the barn used to sit. So someday he's going to have grandchildren, and we're still going to have Holmes kids living on the Holmes farm. So that means a lot to me. But I can attest to Kevin. If it wasn't for them, I know when it was down to literally maybe the last day, and we would have had nothing. And that my grandfather's dignity, my dad's dignity, losing everything would have, and I can't even imagine how my life would have changed and the rest of our lives changed. And I know back then my dad was real clear that one of the biggest things they didn't want to see a farmer put in that situation. They spent enormous amounts of money back then for the land, and they haven't recouped that. So as a businessman, I understand that. I also understand it's important being a homeowner like Alan. It's nearby. Your point was well taken. I live down on the Holmes Farm Road in Oakland, and they always wanted to put a trail by my home. And you know something? I almost rather die to have people walk by my home every day. So I understand where you live and how the area affects you is very important. So I just know on my end, without Ellen Violet and Associates, my life would be drastically different. And I appreciate everything Kevin said they did. They dug gas tank. They tore a barn down. They gave my dad, which I thought back then was a generous amount of land for the situation he was in. They could have took advantage of him, and they didn't do that. So I appreciate everything they've done. And we did meet with Nick and Kevin, and what I see, they're trying to go out of their way to build something that's going to make the area look beautiful. It's going to give revenue to the city of Waterville. Sounds like solar is going to be the future. I'm not sure if it's here now, today, it's going to happen, but obviously it is going to be the future. So my son Jordan, who's going to own 5 acres, owns 5 acres. He's in a butter. His opinion is very important. And like I said, Alan's opinion is important too. I understand clearly, eminent domain, people's rights are important. If it's one person, important compared to a large project. And I think every voice is important. So I just want to attest on my part right now that I believe that they've done everything they should do. Sounds like Waterville's very strict. They already have a good ordinance in place to protect the people around them. They've made concessions. And I don't know if I have much more to say to that unless someone has a question.
No, I would just like to, I appreciate you coming here, I appreciate your words, and I think it's important as we move forward to talk about this, that there's no judgment on Mr. Violet or Nick or anybody else involved with the project. Our commentary and judgment is going to fall around whether this project is, I think, right for Waterville and all of the considerations, including our homeowners who get impacted by these projects. But it's in no way a judgment on the person. I think I can speak on behalf of everybody, whether someone's for or against this. I don't think we're judging persons here, and I think it's important to get that out there.
That's good.
I'm certainly not here to judge anybody's character.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to say what it meant to me. Still being able to function. I'm still. My brother's living in my grandfather's home. I live down just a half a mile away. My son's moving up. It means a lot to me. I think looking at the future market and everything, land in Waterville is getting hotter and hotter. I know my oldest son, he moved to Oakland. My daughter moved to Sydney. And I tell you what, they're smart kids, they're successful kids. They're worried about taxes. Now I know Waterville should have a higher tax rate. They're doing a lot of things, and it's very important. But boy, young people nowadays, developing land up in Waterville is going to get more and more difficult. So at some point, your avenue is going to have to be owning a home in Waterville. You're going to have to take your opportunities when you can get them. I know the Webb Road has got a lot of land, but you're going to have to increase your base. And I'm only speaking on my behalf. But again, Alan Sweat's opinion is very important. So I haven't talked to Alan since he's met with Nick and Kevin and stuff, but I know they've worked really hard to try to do everything they can to make Alan feel comfortable with what he got. And I going to Kevin's point about the trees. Trees grow fast. At some point, you're not going to be able to see the solar farm. I don't know what size trees you're planning on putting it in, right? But I'm sure I can understand, Kevin, you don't want to wake up and look out your window. I slept in that same bedroom. I understand. I told Alan when we met in his garage, I go, before I die, I want to come into this house one more time if you don't mind. He goes, you can come in now. I'm like, no, I want to do it just when I get to the end. So, but again, I grew up in the home Alan lives, and again, his opinion is important, and I appreciate it, Nick and Mr. Roy and everybody else here. Thank you very much. My son Jordan Holmes, who's a butter.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jordan. Obviously, everyone gave my backstory, but I just purchased the last 5 acres of the Holmes farm land, solely just the Holmes owners. And it was a big move for me. And then all of a sudden I woke up, solar farm's coming in. So initially I was stressed. I had to do my research. I had to think about it. I didn't speak with them. I saw a proposed plan. I panicked, right? Like anyone would. And because obviously I want to build a home there, have a family, grow up, be 5 seconds from my father, but that was initial. I spoke with these guys, got in touch with them. I work on the road. I've been in Boston for the last month, every day of the week, home on the weekend, so it's been tough to communicate, but they made the time, and everything that I put into consideration, and Alan as well, I thought they did a fair job, and I don't think a tree buffer, I think the tree buffer is a great idea, and I think the way they're setting it up and the plan to space them out, stagger them, will actually look pretty nice. And on top of it, solar panels, from what I've heard and what I've seen, they get better, stronger, and if this is truly going to be a 6-year plan, they're only going to get more efficient, more reliable, more productive, and so on. I don't have much more to say than I'm supportive of it. I think it's going to be good for the community, and I honestly, it's not going to bother me. Yeah.
Jordan, quick question. On that map, which piece of property do you own?
Yes, so right here, obviously Alan, he's the one that being.
Yeah.
conflicted the most, you know, it was stressing me out as well. But, I own from this driveway up and over the 5-acre plot.
Okay.
Obviously, it doesn't affect me as much.
Sure.
But, because I'm obviously on the highest point of the land. And I didn't say my house is gonna be here. It's in a beginning stage that I just purchased it. I've been working on clearing it and
Yeah, okay.
tightening it up. But, that's the goal as of now, so. And that field, I ran around that field the whole time I was a kid. So I know what it is, but I know what it can be, and I don't think it will destroy any more beauty that's still there. It's just gonna be a new industrialized beautiful thing, you know?
Well, they're not beautiful. I mean, the trees might be. I think we can admit the trees might make it that way, but solar farms are hideous.
I've seen them, but,
I'm biased. So.
no, I understand. I've seen solar panels, I've seen windmills, you can knock anything. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You can look at a crack in a concrete and say it's ugly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing's beautiful.
I do.
Everyone has their opinion, but if you're gonna, I mean, they're efficient. They're not loud. It's definitely not gonna disturb the residents in such a way. I don't think. But any other questions? I'm in agreement of this.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
My name is Mark Champagne. I live on 5 Yorkie Way. I own approximately 4 lots off to the side of Kevin's subdivision. I purchased the property in 2005. It is absolutely beautiful down there. Mr. Violet's been a great steward of that property. He cleaned it all up. There was a lot of trees. He had people come in and straighten it. The organic farmer took over, did an absolutely great job. We hear him up there farming. It's really a beautiful place. As far as a solar farm going in there, I am all for it. I could see worse things going in there, but in this particular case, I think a solar farm is a good fit. As a neighbor, solar farms don't make a lot of noise. They're very, very quiet. So our little situation where we're at, I would agree with having the solar farms. To address Mr. Foss, I know that the road will go up over the top of that knoll, but if they plant spruces in there, those will grow up to 25, 30 feet. I don't believe there will be an issue in the next 10 years as far as being able to see that road.
Can you show us on the map where your property is? Are you on there?
Lower right corner.
I am kind of down in this area over in here. I have 4 Yorkie Way, which is one of the lots that we have. 5 Yorkie Way, which is over to the side, and I have 2 resource protected lots that are right on the river. I lived in 6 Yorkie Way for quite a few years. My daughter lived in 2 Yorkie Way, but after 3 or 4 years they were sold, and new people lived in there. Evan Renee Fernandez and Sean Johnson. I'm speaking also for Sean. Sean couldn't be here today because he had something going on. He said that he would be in favor of that, and he can see it clearly. He's right on the very edge of it. But he knew that there was some spruce going in there and a large fence, and he didn't have any problem with that. Any questions at all?
No.
Thank you.
Could I just make one more comment?
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry, this week's. Just to Councilman Foss, to your point about the road, I think it's really important to make clear that this is not a final design. So we're here today to rezone this as the solar district and then have the opportunity to go back to the planning board and present formal plans. So I want to continue to work with Mr. Sweat, Mrs. Sweat, all the abutters. We're an open book, fully transparent. I want to continue to work with them to make adjustments, if more adjustments are needed. So this is by no means a final plan, so that road position does not need to be in that location.
I wasn't using the road as a location. I was using the road as a point of reference for my pictures.
Next map.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just had to see it.
That's fine.
So, just for clarification, are the trees going to come all the way back here? Can come around, or where?
Yeah, so the tree line is going to be, we've assumed right now it's the entire perimeter of the pond. So the facility will be...
Just so this is Mr. Sweat's land, just for those who are back there.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess the one question that I have, and Mr. Meyer just said something just a minute ago, is that the one thing that he said, in 10 years, you won't be able to see it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, they seem like healthy people, but I mean, like, do I want to wait 10 years to not be able to see it?
Well, I think,
So, can you put 20-foot trees in there now?
it would be hard to source, I think, 20-foot,
I mean,
large
just
number,
a
but
I mean,
we could
20 is an
start-
arbitrary number, like, like, these things are
Absolutely.
gonna grow 20, I mean, like, great,
Yes.
the fence is at 8.
Right.
Can we go higher than 8 and, let it go, but, I mean, 10 years is,
Oh, totally,
You know
yeah,
what I
no,
mean?
so,
Like-
so we've actually done that with our project in Fairfield, and so we're obviously, more than willing to work with the Sweats and the town. I mean, we typically just look at what's in the municipal ordinance until, obviously, we hear from the abutters. So, absolutely, we could start with, I think 6 feet, 8, 6 and 8 feet. It really comes down to what you can source, from the arborist, but, you wouldn't have to put, really low brush. You could start with a higher.
well, I mean, I think it would have to be higher than the 8-foot fence if you
Sure.
can still see it. We have to wait 10 years for these trees to get to their maturity and not see this, and obviously the 8-foot fence isn't gonna do it, so do we have an ability to put something at least in the line of sight? You know what I mean? You don't have to, I'm not asking you to go harvest to put the entire perimeter around here, but, I think that at the end of the day, if we're, from the line of sight from the property, if we start there and then.
Where there is a sensitive area, Nick is doing a project in Fairfield, a 60-acre project, and he is putting substantial tree growth to one neighbor. The buffer zones that we're used to working with, it's very easy to buy nursery stock trees, spruce, hemlock, fir, 6 to 8 feet tall, very easy. We like to mix softwoods in, native maples, hardwoods, and those trees, you can buy them 12 to 15 feet, and they grow very quickly. Those lose their leaves, so we try to stagger year-round buffer trees, hemlock, spruce, pine, fir, along with the softwoods that are 12 to 15 feet tall. And where there is a sensitive area, absolutely. Okay, we're not trying to create an eyesore on the Holmes farm. That's not the right thing to do. So to look at buffer zones, which we have to go back to the planning board, and to delineate taller trees, higher trees, 8s, 10s, 12s, 14s, especially if you do a mix of softwood and hardwood. You can buy 12-foot to 15-foot maple trees on the shelf at Home Depot. So it's not a problem putting larger tree growth in. And this 30-foot deep buffer zone, which is 20 feet from the property line, the fence is in the background that you can't see through. Yeah, I'm not into creating an eyesore. Okay, I'm into creating what's the right thing to do on this Holmes farm. That's where I'm at.
Right, and typically, we get those questions at the planning board, and it's usually a condition of the permit. So, I'm absolutely willing to commit to putting higher growth on the western side. It obviously depends on what's available in the market, but, it's certainly possible, and we've done it with our Fairfield project and other projects as well. Thank you again.
It's actually kind of hoping to see those. So I'm Evan Fernandez. I live at 6 Yawkey Way, and initially we had the same reaction where we were like, oh no, not a solar farm. But we definitely would rather be looking at trees than other houses. I mean, if we can keep the field, we might want to, but we don't necessarily have that option. We live at this one right here, so we've got a great view up the field. We see lots of wildlife. It's really nice, and trees will actually promote wildlife, so we'll still see that. So I'd say that my wife and I are in favor of the project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Weeks, Ward 1, but also a planning board member, and that's why I'm here speaking this evening. Nick, just one of your comments. What is so different about Waterville, we have very little land left, whereas I've been to Milo and there are a lot of open fields, so that's one of the differences there. I have been visiting where this solar farm would go, And I know you all received in your packet this letter from Mr. Violet dated July 10th. I hope you realize there were a lot of errors in what he was stating. The council voted 3-4 last time. He wrote, we won 5-4. And for the planning board, it was 6-1. I agree with what Mayor Isgro has said and Mr. Foss, that when a resident buys out in rural land, there's a reason for being out there. And I don't know how many people have been out there to see what exists right now. And Mr. Morse, your question about the trees, I've been talking with some arborists, and you're spot on. It would take at least 12 to 15 years to get to a height where you could not see the enclosed fence. Mr. and Mrs. Sweat have been there for nearly 30 years. Waterville residents, tax-paying residents, and to have Mr. Violet come in to develop this. I remember several years ago, and Mayor and Mr. Mayor, you were at the Stearns building when Mr. Violet came and spoke and said, look, I have a lot of land. People come to me to build homes, and when they find out the tax rate, we go elsewhere. That land isn't going to deteriorate. I will wait until the property taxes go down. I remember that very, very clearly. But when you go to a private home and start threatening and bullying because you don't think you're going to get a solar farm, that when I get up in the morning, I would have the privilege of seeing that rather than seeing the wide open field now and the wildlife. And I know Mr. Bragg, and he has utilized that land very respectfully. And now that land will go away too. And yes, they're telling us so, they've moved it back. Well, from the elevation where the Sweats are, they will still be able to get up in the morning and see those black panels every time. So I am imploring you, if it were in your neighborhood, I know some of you live on very nice streets. Would you want to get up and see that every morning? So for once, let's think of the resident. This $63,000 is mere crumbs the way we spend money in Waterville. We need to fight for the resident for a change. So, thank you.
And I do just think, real quickly, it is an important note that if there's not a solar farm, it doesn't mean there's never going to be development there. Certainly could be homes and things like that. So I do think that the question is, do you want to have it kind of like more of an industrial zone with the solar panels, or do you want it to be left for housing? I don't want anyone to get the false impression we're saying that this is going to be a field in perpetuity.
Well, I actually have the rural residential zone requirements open in front of me. And so just to be clear, I mean, one, I think to characterize, pointing out to somebody what other things could possibly happen is not threatening or bullying. The fact of the matter is that in the rural residential zone, there are a lot of other things that are allowed right now, which would include a mobile home park, for example, of course, other houses. Anything that's allowed in any residential zone in the city is allowed in this zone. Other things that are possibly allowed as well, which would have to go in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals, would be a nursing home, a hospital, a veterinary hospital, a kennel. So, a kennel, I mean, you could have hundreds of barking dogs next door. You could have an outdoor recreational area, I assume, you know, perhaps something like a motocross track. You could have processing of agricultural products. You could have campgrounds. You could have agriculture, including a chicken farm or other animals. So those are the things that are currently allowed to happen on this property without rezoning it. And I mean, it's all subjective. Personally, if I was living where Mr. Sweat is, I would be happy to see a solar farm go next door because it means none of those other things are going in next door. There's nothing next door that's going to make any noise. I don't have to worry about rowdy neighbors. So that's a matter of personal opinion, obviously. And then I just wanted to speak, the tax piece. Yes, ultimately, the taxes are going to be paid by people who pay income tax and sales tax and those other things. But the fact of the matter is, Waterville residents are currently subsidizing these projects in other communities because their tax dollars are paying the reimbursement for projects that happen in other communities. And so this is an opportunity for Waterville residents to recoup some of those tax dollars that they're currently sending off to other communities.
Eric, I just want to thank you for pointing out all of the other things we need to fix in that residential zone. You'll note that later on this evening, we have a referral to the planning board to look at the creation of a mobile home park zone because this has come up not just with this project and some other projects we've had earlier this year where there's been some controversy about whether we want to expand mobile home parks in the city or not. And the reality is we have the ability to control that. So we're going to be asking the planning board hopefully to address that later, but maybe we need some more in the future. Mr. Sweat.
Excuse me, if I may.
Yep.
I've been misquoted again, I hate to say. I gotta tell you, it won't take 12 to 15 years not to see a fence, because if you put up 8-foot pines, and 8-foot spruce, and 20-foot or 12-foot softwoods, no, it won't take 15 years for a 12-foot tree or an 8-foot tree to grow nothing. Okay, that's wrong. The threat and the bully part, it was a gross misunderstanding in front of this council last time because we weren't able to speak to the wooded buffer zone and the privacy fences. That was never mentioned. So because it wasn't mentioned, my understanding talking to Mr. Sweat several times, he didn't realize. We haven't been to the planning board yet. We haven't gone through the requirements, and no one even mentioned what's in your ordinance for a solar farm. So he didn't know that. So yes, I did point out to him, and thank you very much, that a lot of things, including you approved at the last meeting, a shooting range in our zone. So it's okay to listen to machine gun fire in our zone at the other end of town, I understand, but that's an allowable use within this zone. And I did point out to them, I own 2 trailer parks, I built them and manage them. Single-family residential is allowed in this zone, whether it be a single wide or a double pot, that's allowed. It's a permit for $30, okay? It's not the right thing to do. Solar farm, I believe, is the right thing to do. Just like I believe it was the right thing to do to clean this farm up and let the family live there for the rest of their lives. That was the right thing to do. So as far as the threat and the bully, I take offense to that.
You told me that. You wanted to...
Please, speak.
Come on, Kevin.
No. What did I... Let me speak to what I said. I pointed out to Mr. Sweat, and he's going to speak. And again, Alan, I have been fair with you. Please speak to the issue. Don't let me talk you in or out of anything, okay? But the facts remain. You heard Mr. Thomas over there. I can do what I want on my property. And Kathy spoke to landowners' rights. What about this landowner right here? I've been paying taxes there for 25 years. Do I have a right to develop my property as the zone allows? Yes, I do. I'm asking this council tonight to give me a vote of approval to do the right thing on the county road, not the wrong thing. I have a right to do what I have a right to do, and I have as much rights as Mr. Sweat does. I pay more taxes than he does, and I own more property than he does. So I have rights too. So don't talk about taking Alan's rights away when you're more than willing to take my rights away here tonight. Now let's let Mr. Sweat speak.
I just want to make a correction. I'm not speaking about taking away anybody's rights. We just approved a solar farm tonight, so there's no right to a solar farm. I don't think anyone's stripping Alan of his rights if you put a solar farm in. I don't think this has to do with rights. Just like I can't put a gas station on my front lawn. I don't think I'm talking about either of your rights. I think we're talking about whether this is the right thing to rezone this property or not. And I just would like to keep it to that. Mr. Sweat?
All right. I'm glad this is the final chapter. I have a lot of sleepless nights, up at 2 o'clock in the morning, Googling it, what good's a solar farm, what isn't a good at a solar farm. That guy right there, he's pretty sharp. If I was running a business, I'd want him running it. He's not only smart, he's intelligent. But I didn't want to bring it up. Somebody else did. And he met me on my back lawn. He's out taking pictures. And he told me, stupid, isn't it? I can put trailer parks. I'll have somebody, a surveyor, and I'm going to line 7 trailers up there, and then I'm going to make a driveway down there and put 7 more. So what was I supposed to do? I'm not going to be the horse's rear end on the county road and say, well, geez, I'm crying here. There's going to be 14 trailers there. There's 7 trailers from Oakland moving in. I'm not going to do that because I value my neighbors too much. I value Nick and Jordan. They're my new neighbors. They've been there forever, but Jordan's going to carry on that tradition. I'm not going to let people come over and say, hey, look at that knucklehead. Could have been a solar farm there. But now there's trailers there because the landowner says, well, I can do that. Or I can build a motocross track down there, right? Yeah, right, really? Thanks for bringing that up. I don't like it. Do I like it? No, I don't like it. It is an industrial zone. You're taking a rural, spectacular piece of property. Why the house lots haven't sold, I don't know. I don't know. Kevin's the guy selling them.
Mill rate.
That's why. That's why I said what I said. That's why I told you folks that I don't like being bullied around. It's a final claim. I'm an old railroad guy, and we have a lot of faith and trust in each other. Union guy all the way. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, it's solidarity, and that's how I feel today. You guys, you're changing our lives. We did talk in my garage about trees and buffer zones and pushbacks and all that, and it worked out fine. But that is why I told them I would support this project. I don't approve of it, but I'll support it. Just because I don't like being bullied around, and I don't want to be like the horse's rear end when those millionaires behind me drive by in their houses, drive by to go to their houses and see 28 trailers and say, Sweat's fault, Sweat's fault. That's it. That's
Sure.
where I'm standing. So,
Well,
thank you very much.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Mr. Violet plans on doing that. It's my understanding. We also are hopefully undertaking the process to change the zoning ordinance through the planning board to take trailer parks out of this, because frankly, they're a financial drag on the city, and we don't want. We need to be in control of where they go. So,
I'd like to thank you for coming to my houses, all of yous. My ward counselor, she couldn't make it, didn't come out, but I thank the rest of you for showing up and seeing our property. It's spectacular out there. In the fall, it's even prettier. And that's it. Thank you very kindly.
is there any other final comments or questions? I think we are ready for a roll call.
Counselor Morris?
No.
Counselor Oliveira? Counselor Oliveira?
You're muted.
Muted.
You're muted.
It's your turn. Okay. Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
No.
Counselor Foss?
No.
Counselor Frankie?
Claude?
Claude, it's you.
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 4 in favor and 3 opposed.
That does not carry that.
Correct.
Which, that, just to be clear, that means it does not, it takes 5 votes to change the zoning.
Yes.
So you're saying that this did not get approved tonight?
It did not.
Okay. We put our best foot forward. We tried our best. You all have to live with the results.
Mike, am I correct if this, for this to come back to the council, one of the councilors who voted no would have to put it on the agenda, right?
Right.
I just want to thank you all for standing up for the residents for a change. This is what you're sitting there for, to work for the residents. So,
Aye.
thank you.
Ms. Weeks. Thanks. Next is ordinance 146, 2020.
An ordinance providing for amendment to the traffic ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel Olivera,
Yes.
Counsel Smith,
Yes.
Counsel Mayu,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
No.
Counsel Frankie,
No.
Counsel Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
Next is order 154, 2020.
An order providing for acceptance of a Keep Maine Healthy 2020 Municipal COVID-19 Awareness Campaign Award.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel Olivera,
Yes.
Counsel Smith,
Yes.
Counsel Mayu,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie.
Yes.
What was that? I'm sorry. Counsel Frankie,
What was your vote, Claude?
Yes.
Counsel Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next is order 155, 2020.
An order providing for appropriation of municipal and school operating budgets for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, discussion. Mike, want to take stage?
The Finance Committee met yesterday. I sent you all a summary of that meeting. I can go over the highlights if you'd like, or if there are immediate questions, we can go to that. Essentially, the committee made 4 recommendations yesterday. 1, keep the mill rate as it is, 25.76. Second, there's still a question regarding one of the 2 new proposed positions, the dispatcher at police department. That dispatcher is recommended to be full-time starting July 1. Well, of course, it's after July 1, but starting soon. So it would be a 12-month position. The third recommendation regarding the other new position, and that position with Parks and Rec and Public Works be for half a year, starting January 1st, in order to provide a savings of about $31,000. And the fourth recommendation was regarding the addition of a new patrol officer for the police department. This is something that wasn't in the budget, is not in the budget. It certainly was talked about a number of times as far back as January. So when the committee met yesterday, they wanted to propose to the full council tonight that you consider adding 1 full-time position to the police department, and that position would begin January 1 also. So when you take those pluses and minuses and put them together, we are approximately $100,000 short of meeting that tax demand with a mill rate of 25.76. So you can use additional surplus, you can make cuts. We could increase the mill rate 14 cents, as I'm recommending you do, or you could do a combination of all 3. Yesterday, the committee came down with the recommendation of asking the school and the city to split that responsibility of 100,000, 50 city, 50 school.
No tax, no
So-
tax increase.
And no tax.
Right, and the 50 from the city would come out of our surplus, and the 50 from the school system is, they can either use more surplus or they can cut stuff out of their budget. That's entirely up to them, how they want to reduce their request for tax dollars by $50,000. And I would offer everything that was just summarized as an amendment to the budget as it sits now.
And I'll second.
Yep.
Okay, so that slate, that amendment, which is all of those changes, is open for discussion. We do have members of the school board here. I see Eric Haley's here, Paula's here, Mary Ann Bernier's here. I don't know who iPad 2 Grammy is, but whoever that is here.
Nana? Somebody's Nana?
So, open for discussion. I don't know if where we want to start with this.
Council?
Council, yeah.
I'm happy with it. I think it's a good workable solution, keeps tax rate right where it is. You know, we know going into COVID that, you know, revenue sharing is going to be a hit, a little bit of a miss. The only question I have, don't get me wrong, I'm in support of what the amendment is. If revenue sharing comes in lower than what we anticipate, what then?
Well, the council can always make mid-course corrections.
Okay.
You could decide, come January 1, we've got 6 months into the budget, right? Now you can see a lot better what your revenue sharing is than what it is today. I mean, a lot better knowledge of what it will be 6 months from now. You could say at that time, we're not going to start the police patrol position, and we're not going to start the public works Parks and Rec position. One thing you could
Speaking
do.
of Public Works, I didn't see my Web Road in there.
Have I seen what?
I didn't see Web Road in there.
There was talk yesterday about maybe cutting the road paving, but it went nowhere.
It did go nowhere.
But
Okay.
we can make mid-course corrections.
Okay.
Councilor Mayhew?
Can't change the mill rate. Once that's set 2 weeks from now, I hope.
But we also, that's why we put 2 of the hirings for January. It's probably going to take chief a while to get somebody anyway for a patrol person, from what I understand. But also, it will afford the council that time. So if something dramatic changes between now and then, between that and there's the Parks and Rec and Public Works position as well, there can be a reassessment.
Well, and Mike, generally there's a pretty good cushion built into the budget. I mean, very rarely have we actually used all of the surplus that we've budgeted.
Correct.
Right. So there's already a fairly good buffer built into the budget itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think fortunately it's through a lot of difficult budget seasons. We got to the point where this year because of that, we were actually going to be giving a tax cut. So we were really in a great spot, as best we could be, I think, going into this dramatic change of situation.
Well, and the other thing I would point out is that a lot of taxpayers actually will get a tax cut because the homestead exemption is going from $20,000 to $25,000. So anyone who currently qualifies for the homestead exemption is going to see a small decrease in their taxes.
That's correct.
Councilor Mayhew?
Yeah, I just want to echo the sentiments I think, of the entire council. I am in for the Finance Committee's recommendation. I was brought up to speed on those recommendations, obviously, because I was unable to make that committee meeting due to work-related issues. But I do want to say, this is it. This is our most important vote, is our municipal budget as councilors and to our constituencies. And first and foremost, I think it's paramount, and I believe the council's in cohesion and understanding that it's important, with all the stimulus that's come down from the federal level, the state level, municipalities have to do something for the taxpayers as well. And having a no tax increase is paramount to all of our residents and our constituents within our wards. And I echo that sentiments. I would not approve any kind of a budget with any kind of an increase, no matter how minuscule it would be. I certainly know about the fixed income and the senior citizen incomes, and lately the COVID crisis within my constituency that has presented itself with a lot of people out of work, a lot of people struggling to pay their bills, which includes a lot of small business people that I know that are suffering because of the COVID epidemic. And the hospitality business is something that I am very familiar with and can understand a lot of these things with this pandemic. I do believe that the positions that were incorporated into the budget are very well needed. We've been discussing these things for a very long time. I do believe that both the Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and the Police Department are in need of future staffing. Like Councilor Foss said, and Mike Roy, the city manager, said, we can look at this if the state revenue sharing doesn't come in as anticipated, and we can make mid-season or mid-year adjustments if needed be, if we are suffering from the cause of adding these positions. But I do think with all optimism that we can do this with a little bit of adjustment here and there, and it's very much needed. So I implore the whole council take these recommendations to light for what they are. Approve this budget with no tax increase, and at the same time we can increase the productivity of our city in various ways that are unimaginable, have been unimaginable. This is the first budget in 5.5 years as a councilor that I've seen us in the black. We have definitely suffered through many exasperating budgets, Mike, as
Yes.
you know. And it's very
2016, particularly memorable.
So it's very, and right, the hair receding is mutual on a lot of us here on that. And like I said, this is really a pleasant experience to sit here and look at a budget and a recommendation that includes a no tax increase, and I'm very happy to support this.
Councilor Frankie?
Got on mute.
I think he is.
Get on the right button here. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
It seems like we've got a lot of shifting numbers here in the last couple of days, but as far as I'm concerned, the most important thing here is that we're not voting a tax increase. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So, however, the other ways, the other little things that we're shifting around, we're going to end up doing a lot of shifting when we finally figure out what the state and federal government are going to do or not do to help us. Nevertheless, the main thing that I can see is that we're not going to take away the tax reduction that the legislature put into place last year with the homestead exemption. So I can support the budget as long as we're doing that.
All right. Anybody else in the council? All right, we will open it up to our school friends who are here.
Eric has apparently disappeared into the dark.
All you see is the glow of a cigar. Come on,
Is that what that is? That'd be funny.
Mark.
I wouldn't blame him.
Mark Turner.
I guess I'll just say we're representing the school board. We were not included on the finance committee meeting. We were not invited. I'm a member of the finance committee, and I'm not sure why you'd be cutting the school budget without including the school. We worked in good faith. We thought we did a very good job, and I'm disappointed with the city council that you would do this to us at this late, and I think it's inappropriate.
I'd like to speak next.
Okay.
Hey, I'd like to bring in the fact that we finished our budget
while back. And actually, the schools asked for less taxes this year than they have in previous years. You know, and that should be mentioned. And I agree with you, Pam, very much what you're saying.
I guess I would just say that we didn't find out until basically we walked into the finance committee meeting that the assessor had done the math on the mill rate and found out that we were short. We weren't going to generate enough revenue to cover what was budgeted.
Right.
And so we had to make some decisions in that meeting, and we're not telling the school to cut the school budget. We're telling you you could plan, you know, you have a fairly sizable surplus, so you could plan to use more out of your surplus. I think much like the city, the school actually rarely actually dips into the budgeted surplus. I don't think they did either the last 2 budget years, unless I'm wrong. So we're not telling you to cut the budget. We're just telling you need to figure out how to do with $50,000 less in tax revenue.
Are you receiving any additional funding from the state due to COVID or from the federal government due to COVID?
I'd like to ask Eric a question, but I'll answer that, Nick. We get CARES money, but CARES, that's from the federal government. And that is to help us like with air quality within the schools. Things were occurring because of COVID and trying to get these kids back to school. And it's to help us not pass it on to the taxpayer. But Eric, I wasn't quite sure what you're meaning by we have a surplus.
I can attest to that. We've asked a couple of times about, and I sat in one of your school board meetings where it was said that money to take care of certain items was already built into the books. And I could come back with the exact quote, but you know, just like we do at the city level, you've got a surplus, you know, that we fall back on, and these are those times that we'd fall back on it. And $50,000, you know, in my mind, isn't you know, we got to do the same thing for us. I think it's a workable combination, and we don't mean any insult to the work that you guys do, because you do great work on your budget. I've watched it myself. But, you know, we're both going to dip back into our funds a little bit.
We have quality concerns within some of our schools. So what happens is we have to come in now with that federal money and be able to do those things before the teachers and the kids come back. Because the whole masking situation is dependent upon also on the air quality. It's just how the kids ride the buses. We have to offer parents a safe situation, and that's in there, so we're going to have to, you know, do things with the buses. So there are things we still have to pay for at this point.
Yeah, my comment wasn't towards the CARES Act money that you'll be receiving. My comment was towards what I've heard in your own budget meetings.
Right, you have an undesignated fund, just like the city does. That you're I mean, you already had budgeted to use some of that, and the city is budgeting to use $500,000 out of its undesignated fund. So I mean, we, you know, obviously we can't make that decision for the school board. That's up to you. If you want to keep everything that's in your budget the way it is, you can use undesignated funds to make up the difference, or you can cut things. That's your decision, not ours.
And I think, like the city, there's a good chance that that money won't actually get spent, because that happens pretty much every year, where not all of the surplus that's budgeted gets spent.
Correct.
Not meant to be an insult, but you know, at the end of the day, we're trying to make it through a tough year, and we gotta do what we gotta do.
Did we lose Eric?
He's on mute.
Right, but I don't see anybody in.
See somebody's head down. I thought it was Eric.
No,
No?
that's Paulus.
I don't know if somebody can maybe text him or call him and see if he's just stepped away. I assume he's going to want to speak.
Is he the black square?
Yes.
Okay.
He hasn't stepped away. He's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this amendment to the budget? All right, I'll ask for a roll call on the amendment, please.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel Olivera,
No.
that was a no.
Yep.
Counsel Smith,
I can't hear.
That's you.
You can hear me?
Counselor,
No.
no, Counselor Smith.
Counselor Smith,
No.
Counselor
No.
May, Counselor Mayu,
Yes.
Counselor Foss,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
All right. Can I get a motion to move the budget as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the overall budget now? From the public? Okay, I'll ask for a roll call.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Olivera,
The budget.
Oh, the budget. And this is for all of the budget?
Yes.
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 Counselor Smith,
Yeah.
Counselor Mayu,
Yes.
Counselor Foss,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
When's the last time that happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on to new business. Resolution 159, 2020.
A resolution providing for authorizing issuance of a marijuana retail license to Northwoods Pharmacy.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And Counselor Foss?
So I know back last year when the ordinances came through for marijuana and all that good stuff, you guys, I wasn't a part of council at that point. We talked about how many dispensaries, how many everything was going to crop up. And the idea back then was that the market share would take care of the businesses. And I've approved just a few too many of these for the market to be taking care of how many the city of Waterville is going to have. So my question is, how many, either Mr. Roy or Patty, I'm not, either one of you could answer this, how many of this particular retail license have we approved so far just this year?
Well, we just started licensing these a couple of months ago.
Right.
And I believe there's 5 that have been licensed or 6 thus far.
Right, seems like a lot in my head, and that's where I'm going with that. And, you know, at some point, where does the market start slowing things down?
Nobody's actually opened yet, these types of stores,
Okay.
because I don't think it's currently yet
Correct. The state
allowed.
licensing requirements haven't been finalized yet.
These medical ones are operating. They just we didn't have an ordinance in place.
Right.
And so this is kind of, we're backpedaling.
Okay.
That's why they're all coming up at once.
Okay.
Because we sent out a letter to all these existing businesses.
Yep.
So that's
Right.
why you see them all.
Okay.
set
So,
up right now.
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Right, they were
Yep.
all in place currently as medical marijuana.
Yep.
And now they're transitioning into adult use.
Okay.
So we're,
Well,
yeah.
Not all of them.
Not all
They're
are
just
adult use, right.
Staying as medical, but we just need to actually license them through the clerk's office because
Okay.
we didn't have an ordinance to do so.
I'm just keeping an eye on this, and, you know,
Yeah.
with everything that's going on now.
Right.
So,
I'd
like
okay,
to-
that's good
I
information,
like
thank
that
you.
play on words, pharmacy.
Pharmacy with an F.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Counselor.
Something, Council Foss, I wanted to mention since being on the marijuana committee when we did the ordinance. Another wonderful impact of so many people applying for retail licensing is that opens it up to the fees. That, of course, are substantial and good tax revenue for the city.
Yeah.
So certainly, even the medical facilities that are transferring over to apply for the retail license is very beneficial to the city and the tax base.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I just didn't want, you know, a store on every corner.
Yep.
It seemed like we were processing a lot of.
And you're right, I do believe that the market share will determine itself, and there'll be competition, just like just like anything else, and that you have staring across the street with competitors of any nature, but certainly there is a very large market for this, and being a service center, I expect there to be more because of the flow of traffic through the service center. Will be very beneficial.
Did you have somebody to come in?
They're for the next one.
Okay. I think we're ready for a roll call on this one?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel Olivera,
Yes.
Counsel Smith,
Yes.
Counsel Mayu,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counsel Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay. Resolution 160, 2020.
A resolution providing for authorizing issuance of a marijuana retail license to Sweet Dirt.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right. This is you, all right, well, hey, thanks for waiting an hour and 40 minutes. Appreciate that.
Not a problem. Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm Jessica Oliver. I'm the head of retail at Sweet Dirt. We just wanted to introduce ourselves to you this evening. We are a local company. We're founded by Mainers, run by Mainers. Our base of operation is located in Elliott, where we've been operating a medical store since 2018. We're currently completing the build-out of a 30,000 square foot greenhouse. We utilize organic farming practices and are MOFCA certified. We plan to have an adult use retail store and manufacturing in Elliott as well. We're really excited and honored to have the opportunity to invest in the Waterville community and be a good community partner. We'll be hiring a minimum of 15 retail and security personnel for our location at 475 KMD. Currently, we've already received well over 100 applications for retail associate and management positions. And finally, I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with the city on this matter. The ordinance is comprehensive and sophisticated, and we really appreciate all your hard work on this matter.
Thank you very much. And this is the one where the pine cone was, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Will you have baked goods?
Hopefully.
All right.
The supply chain allows.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to welcome you folks to the community because, again, like I have said, you know, the whole issue with having a marijuana comprehensive ordinance is to foster this type of business that's increasing throughout the state, throughout the country, and certainly for known purposes that are very beneficial to a lot of people. And at the same time, you know, you providing jobs is very critical to our local economy, and I can't say that enough. Jobs are in such great demand, especially during this pandemic, and yeah, I just welcome you guys and your business, and looking forward to seeing you do well.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take a roll call.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel Olivera,
Yes.
Counsel Smith,
Yes.
Counsel Mayu,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counsel Thomas.
Yes.
Vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Welcome to Waterville.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And now, after hearing about 2 marijuana establishments, we're going to hear about Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yes. That's a good segue.
I'm now getting hungry.
Resolution 161, 2020.
A resolution providing for issuance of a victualer's license to FQSR LLC, doing business as Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I think we can probably go to a roll call on this one.
I think so.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel Olivera,
Yes.
Counsel Smith,
Yes.
Counsel Mayu,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counsel Thomas.
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Resolution 162, 2020.
A resolution providing for issuance of a victualer's license to John Coke, doing business as Rusty Lantern Market, number 0288.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion?
I have one question. Is that changing, I go on that's just down the street from me. Is that changing hands? Nobody in that store has told me, so that's why I'm having to ask.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
new business owner,
Okay,
so it's considered a new license.
okay.
Okay, I think we're ready for a roll call.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel Olivera,
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next, Resolution 163, 2020.
A resolution providing for ratification of collective bargaining agreement, Waterville professional firefighters.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion? Anybody want to comment on this? Nope. All right.
The first in probably history, all accomplished via Zoom meetings. No in-person meeting between the union and city. So it really went very well.
I don't
amazing.
think we want that ever again. Because we have to take everything that's around that Zoom meeting.
I know,
Yeah.
but we were able to do it.
Good.
Thank you, Chief, for your help.
Thank you. I think both the union and the city did a very good job navigating the Zoom
Yep.
interface. They're very satisfied with it.
Yep.
Okay, we'll take a roll call.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Ordinance 164, 2020.
An order providing for amendments to public safety ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion?
This is the fees, yes.
Counselor Foss?
So I'm on the fire committee with Councilor Morris. We talked about this in great detail. Chief has been awesome in bringing us up to speed. At first, when I saw it, I'm like, nah, we can't do this to everybody. There was lengthy discussion on how we could, and it seems fair, it seems right, and I'm all for it. So thank you, Councilor Morris, for helping me understand the ins and outs, still being slightly new at all this. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen, being a member of this, the fire committee, and the chair of the committee, like this, these are great things, and this is one of many things that we're gonna, this committee is gonna turn out, and I think that it speaks for itself when we start taking a look and really a deep dive into a department and to try to figure out a service and how we can, turn around and essentially make money doing these services and things that, that we were doing for free, not only for, local businesses, but nonprofits and things of that nature. So to be able to see the opportunities that are there, to be able to start to get some of this money back is really good. And I look forward to some of the other things that we're going to talk about in the future as we go through this, because it's all exciting things, and I think that this stuff will help fund this department without having to come back to taxpayers for additional monies. We're really working to set this up in a way that the money that's generated is put back into a plan that is going to grow and sustain this department for many years to come. And so yeah, this was a great thing, and like you said, I'm looking forward to everything else that we've got working on in this committee.
Chief, I see you at the table.
I'm just happy to answer any questions. I'd like to thank the fire committee, obviously. We've put a lot of work into this over the last couple months. And what we've really done is taken a look at the fire department and said, how do we look at other fire departments across the state and how are they capturing revenue? And this is one of the areas at which most fire departments, specifically southern fire departments, are all capturing revenue, whether it be services they already provide, services they're already doing on a daily basis like ours. And I think that, as I look back at the fire department and areas that needed improvement, was we've been squeezed because as we move forward, we're continually getting new responsibility all the time. It keeps stacking up, stacking up, stacking up. And we failed to recognize that some other fire departments are generating some revenue to help to control that squeeze on our department. So one of them is specifically is code enforcement, and we do code enforcement every day. We inspect over 100 buildings annually. And if you take an example like Walmart, Walmart takes 2 inspectors, a minimum of 4 hours, and we do it annually. We've never been able to capture any revenue out of those inspections. This program in front of you would capture $50 for doing that inspection, okay? So something is better than nothing. But plans review, any major projects that come through the fire department that we have a oversight on, and we review most projects that go through the planning board anyway. That's time that the council and the fire department hasn't been taken advantage of. So this really sets the stage for us to be able to capture some of those revenues to help sustain our department.
Great. Councilor Mayhew?
Yeah, you know, the Chief Essler, I've been very sympathetic to what's being done within the department, especially with the fire committee. I think I think the councils on the fire committee do a really commendable job in helping with you and your insight and your team to find alternate revenue sources that were missed for a long time, and you exploring the avenues of other fire departments. I mean, I really enjoy hearing your incredible outreach and passion for your job, because you certainly are looking from every frugal nook and cranny and corner to find alternate revenue sources to try to sustain the department and pass the savings on to residential taxpayers of Waterville. I mean, this is exactly what any council member sitting here wants to hear. This is the reason why eventually we can have more municipal budgets in the black and more unanimous votes on a municipal budget rather than dissension. So this is incredible news, continues to be positive in the realm of what we're dealing with right now, and any form of savings is definitely appreciated. So thank you very much to the committee and the department for this.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we're ready for a roll call. Oh, hang on. I see Councilor Frankie. Pardon me for not looking on the screen first.
That's okay, Nick. Unfortunately, the Zoom mics for you folks at the in-person meeting are extremely poor. The only person I've been able to understand is Councilor Mayhew, because he speaks right into the microphone. Nice job, Sydney. If I can see if I can understand what I'm voting for, it appears to me without all the frou-frou, this is basically bringing the fire department regulations up into the 21st century. Am I missing anything here?
That would be a very good assessment, Counselor.
You should just speak first.
Thank you.
Okay.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayhew?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay. Resolution 165, 2020.
An order providing for repair of the 2 Cent Plaza.
Move to adopt.
And second.
Discussion. Councilor Foss.
The estimated $40,000 to $50,000. It's an estimate.
It's an estimate because we're not sure how much of the walkway we need to replace. Part of the uncertainty is the way these stones were set on an asphalt base with a sticky substance that the pavers were stuck to. And so taking the ones that are bad out, are we going to be able to leave the others that are okay? Or is it really going to be a wholesale
I don't know how to make this any nicer than I'm trying to be, but the bill grant just came in $1 million under because of an estimate. How close, I mean, I'm a little skittish on estimates now. Help me with that.
Well, we're gonna bid it out.
Okay,
So this estimate we got by going to the hotel
yeah,
project, grabbing the landscape guy that was there,
okay,
saying, can you come down to Head of Falls and look at this
Okay.
for us? If you were to get this job when we bid it out, what do you think? So it was that quick.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Regarding the funds available, I mean, this is something that is a good illustration of what we need to do a much better job on, and that is keeping track of our bond expenses, because the money that we're proposing to use is from the 2005 Head of Falls bond.
Yep.
There's no way we should be keeping money around that long. So all the department heads have been asked, as we do these new bonds, to keep a very, very close handle on what it is you've spent, what's left at the end of the year. We have to make decisions. What are we going to do with those leftover monies? But this thing is dragged on. In this case, it's good. We have $26,000 remaining, and the remaining money we need, whether it's another 24 and the thing is 50 or whatever it is going to come from the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund. That fund was created probably 10 years ago when the city had foreclosed property and we would sell it, and the council would say, well, what do we do with the sale revenues? And that time I talked to the council about creating this Capital Improvement Reserve Fund that can handle problems that occur during the year. Boiler goes bad, a vehicle gets seriously damaged, and we have to completely replace it. So that Capital Improvement Reserve Fund money can be used for those kind of unexpected problems. Still, I think this is one of those.
I saw Councilor Frankie's hand up, then we'll go to Councilor Mayhew.
We just told the school board to cut $50,000 from the school budget, and we're going to turn around and spend $50,000 for paving stones. I think we need to stop and think where our priorities are. This is an item that I frankly don't think should be on the agenda, and I plan to vote against this.
Unfortunately, Councilor Frankie, you don't have this picture. I distributed it to the councilors here tonight. What this picture shows very, very clearly, we have some very serious safety hazards at the site because these pavers are all ajar and there are trip hazards here galore. Also, the concrete steps and the railing that's a vandalism that happened. So I'm sympathetic to what you said, but what we have here are definite safety issues.
Well, and plus the 26,000 left over from the bond has to be spent in some way at Head of Falls, correct?
We're paying on that debt service as well anyways,
Right.
regardless if we spend it or not, right?
Right, so the money has to be spent at Head of Falls because it was a waterfront, it was at Head of Falls waterfront bond.
Right.
Yeah, Councilor Mayhew.
So when I look at the design of this, I don't think, when I look at the design of this, and I understand what Council Frankie has indicated. I do understand that we have $26,000 in a previous bond that needs to be spent, so certainly that takes about 2/3 of what is being asked for an estimate in which is the good news, but I still think we could have better news, is if is it less expensive to repair this or replace it with something of a smoother design so you don't have this type of trip hazard? Because this seems like a very poorly developed or planned structure of a walking substance where a plow can come up and really remove some of this stuff just from the very nature of living in Maine. So this specific design, I would think, in really looking at this from I've been involved with some building projects of, McDonald's and stuff and looking at them, so I have some reason or rationality of looking at this, but when you look at pedestrian traffic, this certainly poses a lot of issues and problems down the road, which we're already seeing. So I would think if it's more frugal to replace this with a more smoother design, maybe not so, spicy and expensive, who cares? We're talking about safety, we're talking about no tripping hazards, no legal action being done against the city for maintaining it the right way, and certainly a lot more sweet on the public works or parks and recreation that has to clear it. So I think all of those things, Mike, should be taken into account, not necessarily replace the existing with what we're doing, but I think we should look at the design, and if the money warrants it, to replace with a better design of not tripping hazard.
We plan to go with a much more durable paver this next time. And really, part of the problem is the way we've maintained it by using salt and by running our sidewalk plow. And you can see the very definite path that
Yeah.
plow has taken over the years.
Exactly.
Yep. And so we've got to stop doing that. We may be able to use the brush that we use for cleaning up sand on the streets instead of a plow, and use that, and use a better paver. These pavers were not meant to withstand this kind of use, I don't think.
Right.
So I agree with you. Yep.
And then we'll go to Councilor Frankie after this.
On your thought process there, I'd motion to table this until next meeting, just so
Second.
that we can
Well, I
see
mean-
what you come up, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Get it out. So we can see what you're talking about, as far as a different paver.
The only way you'll be able to see that if we go through, if we bid it out
Right.
and get proposals in, and then
Right.
we can show you the different options. So,
Would that be workable?
Well, I mean, that's what I understand this is, to start the investigation process to replacing this and try to figure out the best way to replace it. So can we talk about, an opportunity, whether it's, whether we just simply, I don't want to say hot top it, but like come up with a different service other than a paver, or anything else that might be a little bit more, either
just
A,
hot top
cost
it.
effective and, whatchamacallit, let's come up with a different either design or, give us a couple options. Say, hey, we can go paver, we can go this, and let's talk about it.
we can certainly, yes, to answer your question, we can
No,
certainly
I
talk
mean,
about
I
options.
don't think it's a dire emergency, but, give them a couple of weeks, see what we come up with, is my thought.
But that's what this, we
Well,
can't do it unless
that's
we
what
have
this
this.
is.
So I think I'd like to go through
We
the
have to
bidding.
approve this to allow him to go get the,
Gotcha.
get the estimates and the bids, and then we can vote on it
The
and
part
say
that-
which one we want to do.
The part that I'm falling on is repair or replace as necessary.
Mike, we would have to approve a bid, right?
Right.
We'd have to accept a bid from somebody.
It's coming back to you.
Because we can
anyway.
either, Rick, we can either repair,
Right.
or we can replace the entire
Right, but
thing.
I'd like to
So
know-
depending on
I'd like to know-
what comes back the best, what are the best options
Or a
for
different
this?
design.
We need to approve this in order to determine that.
Yes.
So it's coming back to you.
Okay.
Once the bids come in,
Yeah.
so we'd like to put it out to bid, come back to you and say, here are some options, here's what we can
Correct.
do.
Councilor Frankie, do you still have a comment?
Well, it's still a little bit hard to follow what you guys are saying out there.
Then
Are
you gotta
we,
come to
do we still have a
meetings.
motion to table on the floor?
No, I'm going to rescind that.
Okay, in that case, I'm just opposed to it because I think this is sending good money after bad, and particularly in light of having just told the school board to knock 50 grand off of their budget. I just think it's unconscionable for us to be messing around with this.
The only thing I'm going to add is that I wish we were this passionate about the rest of the actual sidewalks that the majority of Waterville citizens try to walk on every day. I've been talking about this for 5.5 years, whether it's First Rangeway or Burley Street
Yes.
or Pleasant Street. most of our sidewalks are totally unwalkable. I wish we were this passionate about the rest of our infrastructure that gets used every day by people right in front of their homes walking around town, but
I'd like to echo the mayor on that. There are several hundred people that walk down West Street in front of my house every day, and they all walk in the street because you can't walk on the sidewalk.
Bingo. Yeah. Hey, that's just a commentary. I won't be here next year, but I would love to see a renewed focus on
Absolutely.
sidewalk infrastructure.
Yes.
The next bond package, maybe.
Yes.
Well, I think
Spit it out.
one of the mistakes probably we've made in budgeting over the years, we've never had a sidewalk account. What we've done is, well, got money left over in paving? Yeah, okay, let's do something on the sidewalks here or there. Maybe we should have a dedicated line.
Yes, it is.
That would force us.
Yes.
Works for me.
Yes.
I just made a note to do that in next year's budget.
Great. Are we ready for a roll call on this? I think we are. Patty, we are.
Yes. Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Olivera?
Okay, so when this is to repair, okay, so this is to add, on top of the 26?
No,
No.
it's, there's really not a hard number on it. There's an estimate of $40,000 to $50,000. We won't actually know until we go out to bid. At that point, it'll come back to us and we'll have to vote to accept the bids or not.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
No,
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
Resolution 166, 2020.
A resolution providing for vacation land skydiving lease amendment.
Move to adopt.
Second.
As the summary of this says, it's merely an extension into next year because Vacation Land wasn't able to be there this summer.
Right.
So, was that your question, Counselor Foss? Or?
No, I was actually going to add an amendment, but it's along those lines. Where we didn't get the updated lease, I wanted to make sure that we add an amendment that the terms were going to be April 15th, 2021 to October 31st, 2021.
Yes.
I want to make sure that that's in there because Mr. Fisher, yeah, he was very clear about that time span.
Yeah. And we got that in your email.
Okay.
Yep.
And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I don't have the lease sitting in front of me.
Okay.
With this.
Got it.
So
So,
does that need to be an amendment or is it already in the lease?
It's, I'm sorry?
Does it need to be an amendment or is it actually in the attached, in the lease?
Is it going to be in the lease, Mike, or do we need to?
The dates.
Yes, they're going to
New
be in
dates.
the lease.
Okay, so there doesn't need to be amended.
Okay.
Right, perfect.
Great.
good enough.
All right. Counselor Frankie.
so has the skydiving company been paying rent on under the terms of the lease, or is it just going to start next year when he actually gets into operation?
I assume he hasn't paid anything.
I
this
assume he's
year.
just going to start next year, right?
He's going to start next year.
They're not paying anything now.
No, they haven't paid anything. They'll start when they start their operations next year.
Okay.
So basically the same exact lease, we're just moving it from one year to another.
That's exactly it.
Okay. Roll call.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Olivera?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right. Resolution 167, 2020.
Move to, oh, sorry.
A resolution providing for approval of lease amendment land at LaFleur Airport.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Basically, just a housekeeping measure. One hanger's been sold to another party, so
Yep.
the lease actually has to be changed with the name change.
Okay.
Okay. I'll take a roll call, please.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Olivera?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Resolution 168, 2020.
A resolution providing for referral to the planning board.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I'll speak to this real quick. I'm the one who actually asked for this to be put on here. There was some conversations earlier this year with a expansion of a mobile home park that was actually turned down by the planning board. And then it came back up in the recent discussions about zoning. You know, and sometimes we act like there's nothing we can do about things. And we've also talked about going through the zoning ordinance and updating it and doing planning. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, we can just do this way when things come up. The purpose of city planning is to figure out what you want your city to look like, the highest and best use for land, and to structure it that way. So in order to just take the debate out of it, I would like to ask the planning board to do similar to what they did with the solar farm zone, where they create an ordinance specifically for mobile home parks. I think the idea would be that once that goes through that process and the city council's had a chance to go through that and adopt it, we could then go back and rezone the current existing mobile home parks to make them fall in line with the new ordinance. That would also give the city the ability to review any further expansion of mobile home parks in the city, and the chance to whether it's now, 10 or 20 years from now, and to determine whether that was the right thing for the city of Waterville or not, based on a variety of factors. So I'd like the planning board to take a crack at it, and in fact, I hope as people run into different zoning things, if we're not going to do a full comprehensive review, I think we can just start. I mean, the planning board has said many times they'd love to have the work. They'd love to start looking at these things and tackling some of these issues. So I think this is a good one to start with.
Yep.
Councilor Foss?
Nice and easy. I concur with him.
All right. Councilor Frankie?
The audio was no good for me. I'm sure you made an excellent speech, Nick, but is the basic thing that you're proposing is that the planning board should do the work of the planning board?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
All right, we'll take a roll call, please.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Olivera?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next is Resolution 169, 2020.
A resolution providing for urging businesses to encourage customers and employees to use face coverings.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Open for discussion. Counselor Foss.
I've got cliff notes all over the place. I believe that people are at this stage in COVID smart enough to make their own decisions for their own health. I'm not on board with this.
Counselor Frankie.
The reason that I proposed this resolution, and if you'll note, it tracks very closely the order that the governor put out last week, is because it's crucially important to wear masks if we're going to keep Waterville as safe as it's been so far. And here I'm not just talking to people like Councilor Foss, who is heedless of the virus. Rather, I'm talking to the kids, Flavia's kids, Meg's kids, Mike's kids, all of the kids out there. When they're going to go back to school, they're going to need to do masking. It's important for the parents and us adults to act like adults and put the masks on. So please support it and put your mask on.
So, I have actually spent the last 48 hours trying to do a lot of research. It's been very difficult to come up with actual controlled studies that have been done on face masks. And there is a lot of conflicting medical evidence, particularly with the cloth masks. The N95 mask, we know if you wear them correctly, it can reduce particles going in. If they're worn incorrectly, it can be dangerous. The cloth masks can from what I've discovered, could also potentially either have zero effect. Any studies that have been done on influenza, is my understanding, at least from what I can find. But in any event, you know, I don't know that all kids are going to be wearing masks. I think there's a lot of parents who are not going to be putting their kids in masks. I won't be. And yeah, I think at this point, I think we let business owners do what they want, and let the public and the business owners, through mutual respect, I think, come to those determinations for themselves. That's my opinion. Councilor Mayhew?
I understand the essence of what this is. I can tell you for sure that my business and my chain does follow the guidelines with face mask and abiding by, you know, the state mandates, because we have to, because we're in the hospitality business. I know that the majority of hospitality businesses practice the mask, especially with their staff, to protect their staff. And that is a business person's decision, and I encouraged a business person's decision to encourage the protection of their staff along with their customers. Under those guidelines, I think that small businesses are doing a commendable job in the majority of the time of taking care of this and taking safety precautions. I also think the state has done a really good job with creating zones. You know, as you know, they have made it, you know, Governor Janet Mills has made it mandatory all the way up to Augusta. Not so much with Waterville, but the lines runs through Augusta, where businesses are supposed to enforce customers coming into their lobbies or their dining rooms, they must wear masks. So the enforceable nature of that is difficult on local area law enforcement, of course, and even state law enforcement. It taxes those resources from doing other things. I think we all have to look inside ourselves and understand what kind of precautions do we need to take. Same thing with businesses, and I think we all want the same thing. Small businesses want to be part of the solution and not the problem. I do think I resort back to the state level mandates and trust that those carving out in those sections of where there are a higher infection rate, I think the state has done a very good job with that. That's pretty much how I feel about this resolution.
Sure, and I will say in Claude's defense, he did write this in a proper manner, saying that we're urging people to, we're not making them. So he did write it in that manner. So I would just note also that earlier in this thing, the council failed to pass a resolution that supported small businesses and wouldn't write the governor a letter to ask that small businesses be allowed to reopen. So I'm not sure why now we're asking them to do this. Councilor Frankie?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Nick. You and Councilor Foss sent the letter to reopen. And in that letter, you very emphatically said that we're masking up. But clearly, if you look at the people attending this meeting, there aren't any masks. We're not masking up. And it's time that we let our children know, your children should know, Nick, that mask wearing is important. Irrespective of the so-called studies that you're talking about.
So-called.
The epidemiologists have all said that wearing masks is the best thing that you can do. So I quite frankly think that we need to get Waterville on board and start treating the pandemic seriously.
Councilor Foss?
So I wasn't going to read all my Cliff Notes, but now I'm going to. So the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons have recommended that nobody outside of medical community should wear them for various reasons, up to and including that a lot of the society that is trying to wear cloth masks do not wear them properly. Cloth masks are giving a false sense of security to wearing masks. They also have a spacing of about 77 microns. To that fact, the micron size of a COVID-19 strain, or whatever they're calling it, is actually 0.125 microns. So the simple math says that face coverings as they exist right now, without it being an N95 respirator, or a respirator like I've used in tear gas, which is 1 to 60 microns and properly fit tested and done right, like Chief Essler has received his $18,000 fit testing gear for their N95 masks. There are reasons that I wrote that letter, and what I wanted to do was be part of the solution. Since the writing of that letter, we've all become a lot more educated about how we can best take care of ourselves, hence why I think the general public should be able to take care of their own health at their own discretion. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Listen, I didn't support the other resolution, as I thought that the businesses were starting to open, and more businesses that impacted us were opening, and now they're open and people are going, and I am not a strict mask wearer. But you know what? I carry it with me everywhere because I'm respectful of the businesses that tell me that I have to put it on. And I have no issues in putting it on to go and shop in those establishments. I don't walk away from any of the establishments and because they ask me to wear it. And a lot of the chains, there are national chains that are here that they're just doing it regardless of whether Waterville has to do it or not. And I'm okay with that. And if that's what they ask me to do, then that's what I'm going to do. And if I don't have to wear it, then I'm not going to wear it. And that's my personal preference. But again, I'm not going to disrespect anybody else's. And I will absolutely mask up when it's required.
Well, sure. I think that's just the conversation. There's times that I wear a mask. I wear a mask for work.
Sure.
When I go into certain places, if I go to the doctors, I'm just saying I don't know that it's our job to tell people what they have to do. That's all. Anyway.
They're already doing it. I mean, I go to these stores every day, and
Correct.
People are masking
Hannaford's
up.
handing them out at the front
I don't
door.
think I need to say this again and just say, "Hey guys, mask up." People are doing it. The businesses out there are doing it, and they're asking people to do it. And yeah, I mean, this is already happening.
Nick, can I say something?
Yep.
I mean, I also resisted wearing a mask at first because I was like, I'm pretty healthy, and when I go into the store, I go in and out. I know exactly what I'm going in to get. I don't linger in there. But wearing a mask is not to protect yourself, and it's not necessarily to protect the other people shopping in the store. It's especially at the grocery store, the big department stores and whatnot, it's to protect the people who work there, really, mostly. who have to face thousands of people every single day. And I think we were all praising all of these people and patting them on the back as they continued to work while everyone else was at home. And I think wearing a mask, is the very least you can do to protect those people. And certainly not arguing with them about it. And, to Nick's point, this isn't a requirement, it's a recommendation. Every time we pass a proclamation or any of these things, it's all lip service. I mean, frankly, you could say all those things are pointless. And I honestly tend to feel that way. But in this case, I'm happy to vote in support of saying, yes, people should be wearing masks and not fighting with people who work at these stores when they go in there to keep those people safe. And even if it's the very minimal amount that it helps, I mean, maybe it doesn't prevent you from breathing in a little virus particle, but it certainly prevents you from, sneezing on something, or
It actually doesn't.
it catches some of it, for sure. I don't think you can say that it doesn't. So I don't think for us to pass something that's not a requirement, that's just a recommendation to say that we feel like you should be doing this and being respectful of businesses that ask you to do it, I don't see a problem with it.
All right, I think we're probably ready for a roll call on this one.
Counselor Morris?
No.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
No.
Counselor Foss?
No.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes,
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 4 in favor and 3 opposed.
Last but not least, Resolution 170, 2020.
A resolution providing for appointments to the Kennebec Regional Diversity Initiative.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mike, I don't know if you were able to get this answered. When this kind of first came out, and this was Gary Bowman's kind of brainchild, is this did you find out if this is this completely separate from the Central Maine Growth Council?
No, it's the initiative that Gary Bowman, town manager in Oakland, started. A number of people coalesced around it.
Yep.
Kim is involved with the chamber, Garvin is involved, but not as necessarily, it's not a function of the Growth Council. Although they both feel that this initiative is important from an economic development point of view, and so do I.
Yeah, and I called both of them and asked them, and neither of them could explain to me how it affects economic development. Originally I think my only question I have tonight is, originally it was going to be, I think, to have kind of like a regional statement, but now it's talking about timely achievable goals. And I guess in light of kind of the current atmosphere that we're seeing outside of here, I believe this was going on before all of this, correct? I want to make sure
Yes.
we're not going to end up spending more tax money on consultants for, trainings for our staff and things like that. That's not what this is going to do. That's one thing. I just want to make sure we're not going to be spending tax dollars on consultants and these other things to come in and do things. This is more of a separate.
Locally grown idea.
Okay.
I don't believe it's going to require any expenditures whatsoever.
Okay.
We're certainly not approving any expenditures right now.
No.
And I know.
Right, but you read about some of these trainings that these woke HR departments are doing around the country, and it's this is what I really don't want our employees to have to be pushed through some of this stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that was not what this was. This was more about my understanding was this was more about crafting a statement that we're an accepting, inclusive community.
That's what it's, I believe, principally about.
Thank you, because when I read it, it just sounded different from when I had first heard that.
When I sent it out a couple of weeks ago to all the counselors, I did hear from Counselor Oliveira, said that she was interested in joining, and I put it back on the agenda so we can make that official. And if anyone else wants to participate, certainly it's not limited to one person.
Councilor Fox?
So, Mike, there's a line in there, and I want to be clear before we take a vote on this. So I'm just asking a very finite question. When it says develop timely and achievable goals.
That was mine.
Yeah.
Okay? Goals means it would be bigger, in the way I read it, again, change my mind, the way I read that, if you're looking at goals plurally, okay, that's not coming to equal opportunity employer type announcement. Okay? That means you're going to develop, create, and achieve, hit them, the goals. That's what this summary says. And correct me, somebody, because that's the way I read that.
Well, that's what I said. I didn't want some like woke HR training for our employees.
If I'm developing goals, okay, if I'm a business and I'm developing goals, I'm going to hit those goals. Okay, those are what the people that are looking at me are expecting me to do. So if there's and Councilor Oliveira, if you can help me on this, I want to make sure that I understand it. So when we talk about develop timely and achievable goals, that to me says that it's not just one statement, like we're an equal opportunity employer. What?
Well, so is somebody, I mean, this says to appoint somebody, so who are we asking someone to step forward who wants to be a member of this committee?
I think Flavia has stepped forward.
Flavia has.
Okay.
Flavia's first.
Unless, and I guess Mike said there could be others if others want to join too.
Right. The committee made a request to the city of Waterville, do you want to have participation in this? Are any of you interested? And that's why I sent it to you, to make sure you knew about the invitation. Council Oliveira said she was interested.
The committee that was Garvin and
That drafted
and
this
okay.
statement.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't at all part of that, so I can't answer the question about the creation of goals. I'm not clear.
Well, I mean, this is basically, they want to have a discussion, and like, you can't make judgments about what's going to come out of the discussion they want to have until they have said discussion.
Right, so.
Like, we're not approving any actual recommendations or anything, we're just pointing somebody to this committee so they can talk about stuff.
Does that need a council resolution though?
I think it would be important for the council to confirm. Council Oliveira is our representative and whoever else. So I think it would be important to make the appointment.
That way it gives credibility if that person comes back and asks you to approve something.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Councilor Frankie, I saw your hand up.
Did my name come up?
Yeah, I saw your hand up.
Okay. Just let me make it crystal clear for you, Councilor Foss. Gary Bauman from Oakland has asked us to join in this general group. The Chamber of Commerce is on board. Currently, that's the representative from Waterville, is Kim from the Chamber of Commerce. And I just think it's important that we as an organization indicate that we're in favor. In terms of understanding what's going on, and the reason that the Chamber of Commerce is interested is because diversity is actually good for business. The more customers you have, the more money you can make. Certainly, Councilor Mayhew can explain that to you if you can't quite understand that, Councilor Voss. Diversity is good, and it's good for business.
Councilor Oliveira?
Yeah, so I spoke with Gary, I believe his name is Bauman. And so the first meeting is going to be August 6th. So August 6th is going to be the first meeting. So I'm just going to see what are they going to propose and what are we going to go from there.
Anybody else? All right, we'll take a roll call.
Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
That's you, Flavia.
We're voting.
Roll call.
Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayhew?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next is counselor updates. I don't want to keep everyone here, but I just want to bring up something real quick that was kind of brought to my attention. I've talked to some downtown business owners. And in the plan, I'm just putting this out here now because if I don't, then people will say, well, I never heard about it. And I just want to get people thinking about it. With the build grant, part of the plans for the rebuild downtown, when you get to the section that has the Kobe dormitory on one side, and the Portland Pie, Amici's, Opa, the Dupree's building on the other side, has, I think, a 23-foot sidewalk on the dormitory side, about a 13-foot sidewalk build out on the side with all the restaurants. And I think the restaurant owners are wondering, A, why that was designed that way, and B, why don't we make it 18 and 18 or do some kind of shifting so that they're not disadvantaged to the other side of the street. So maybe we could at least first get some reasoning as to why that was the original design and see how this council can direct that to be changed a little bit so that we're not unfairly, disadvantaging some of the businesses on the other side of the street by the sidewalk build out.
I should have been listening more carefully. The sections are where exactly?
Where the Colby dorm is, he's talking
The Colby
about.
dorm and the other
Both
side.
Chase
sides of the
Forum,
street.
across the street.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, why have, I mean, granted, there's
a great
going to be a
point.
restaurant in the
It is.
Colby dorm as well, but yes, why not?
But then we shouldn't be disadvantaging the restaurants on the other
Right,
side.
no,
Why not
absolutely.
give-
That's a good point.
Yeah, I went down, I got a phone call, I went down and spoke to some of the owners, and I think that there's a general consensus of,
Yeah.
hey, we'd love to have a little bit more equal opportunity.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So, any other council updates? Community notes. In the other room, if there's anybody that has a community note, now's the time to come in. We invite you to come in. Just state your name, tell us where you live, and what you have to say. Manager's report. Mike?
One item, the search for new manager is underway. Applications are due August 7th. We've already received probably 24 applications. So Mayor Isgrove, Council Morris, Council Frankie serve as the initial screening committee, planning committee. Going to suggest to the council on August 4th that you appoint a larger committee that can work to review the applications once they're all in. And I hope what this three-person group can do, first of all, is maybe reduce that number from 50 total apps down to whatever, 20, 25. And that 20, 25 then be forwarded to this larger group that could then do a more extensive review of those 2025 with the idea that that group then would come back to the full council and say, here are the 2 or 3 that we think you should interview. So that's kind of the plan so far. Anyway, applications are coming in, deadline's August 7th.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.